Well, I would say Benavidez, but he's too, that weight class is too high for him. So, where he's at now is great.
David, do you think Crawford will fight you if he beats Canelo?
I wouldn't fight Crawford. I'm at 175.
And Terence Crawford.
No.
Yeah. Wait till that fight. Maybe planning on vacating the belts?
No, we ain't gonna vacate the belts.
Coach Brian McIntyre drew attention right after the bout when he was questioned about Turki Alalshikh proposing a matchup between Terence Crawford and David Benavidez. As the next fight, Bomac shut it down, immediately saying Crawford has no need for that type of opponent right now.
We just gonna sit where we need to sit for a minute, and then, just like I said, get back in the gym and do our thing.
Honest.
And he don't want no.
He also pointed fans back to when Brian McIntyre explained that sparring with Jaron Ennis would not really help Canelo Alvarez prepare because Terence Crawford operates on a completely different level than Ennis.
What does this performance prove about the Ennis sparring? You guys were largely
I told you it don't make no difference. Didn't I say it? I said, that don't mean shit. I don't give a damn about that.
Yeah.
I said that, didn't I?
Yeah.
That was one of those interviews. I said that. Don't mean shit. Because he's no Bud Crawford. I'm not taking nothing from Ennis, Boozy, them over there, they're my guys. Shit, but bringing in that, which is good for Canelo, but it didn't do no good in the fight.
The talk about David Benavidez actually started with Turki Alalshikh himself, because only hours after Terence, Crawford secured his massive when the powerful figure in Saudi boxing posted a public message congratulating him for capturing the undisputed super middleweight crown and becoming the first fighter in history to hold undisputed titles in 3 weight classes, while also praising Canelo Alvarez for his strong. Showing then he stirred conversation by asking if Benavidez could still make 168 pounds, which instantly energized boxing fans online. Greg Hackett later addressed the sudden buzz around a possible Crawford versus Benavidez matchup, explaining that it was never a serious finalized plan and suggesting the idea seemed fueled more by hype and financial appeal than by sporting necessity, while stressing that Crawford does not need Benavidez to validate his legacy, and warning that Benavidez could struggle physically trying to drop back to 168 after already moving up to 175.
Try to test his limits, and he think the money is going to keep getting him out there. That fight is pointless. The fight is pointless because nobody ever talked about that fight until now. And then I don't feel like Bud needs a Benavidez. And then that would mean Benavidez would have to go into a different body and bring himself back down to 68 when he's already getting settled in at 175.
Greg Hackett then explained why the discussion about Terence Crawford facing David Benavidez felt mostly manufactured. He framed it as a promotional show of influence from Turki Alalshikh, while also pointing out that the sport can still follow logic and competitive sense rather than pure spectacle.
I believe Benavidez has some tough tasks in front of him that he want to conquer before even talking like that. I don't even think he want to talk like that because there's really no point. He wanted the Canelo fight because Canelo was the man at 68. He was at 68. I don't think he cared about fighting Bud, and I don't think Bud cared about fighting Benavidez. That's just Turki trying to pull rank. Turki trying to show he got a golden.
One storyline before the bout centered on whether Terence Crawford could extend his achievements into yet another division, because some analysts had already been referring to him as a 4-weight world champion, even though that was not technically accurate. Voices like Showbiz the Adult had repeatedly questioned whether Crawford's reputation truly matched the strength of his record, and for years skeptics argued that he had not consistently faced enough top-tier opponents or fully proven himself against the very highest level of competition.
Bud Crawford is top 4 greatest fighters of all time. Do you understand how improbable this is? I thought Bud had no chance. I lost 20 grand. Not only is Terence Crawford on my Mount Rushmore, like I've said, if he were to win, because the probability of him winning against all the odds, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see how at all.
That narrative did not survive the spotlight of this historic fight, where Terence Crawford moved up in weight and dismantled one of the sport's most established champions, forcing even his strongest critics to rethink how they viewed his legacy. Showbiz the Adult captured that shift firsthand in the hours right after the bout, documenting the reaction in a way viewers would remember.
That's the class he put together. That guy He can face anybody in history and be a problem. Him right there. Not only that, I think this cements the fact that everybody avoided him. This right here answers everything. Not only is Terence Bud Crawford on my Mount Rushmore, but everybody avoided him. And that sheds more light on how he beat Errol Spence.
By jumping up 2 divisions to 168 pounds and capturing all 4 major titles, their Terence Crawford made history as the first man ever to become undisputed champion in 3 separate weight classes, a feat no fighter before him had reached. So while calling him a 4-division undisputed champion was incorrect, what he actually achieved was still remarkable in its own way. At the press conference after his unanimous decision defeat Canelo Alvarez surprised many listeners by speaking openly instead of making excuses, and gave Crawford strong credit, stating that he believed Bud was the better fighter.
And compare and contrast the fight between yourself and Floyd Mayweather Jr. and tonight's bout with Terence Bud Crawford, if you can.
No, I think Crawford is way better than Floyd Mayweather.
During the matchup between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez, longtime boxing writer Dan Rafael shared his ringside view, explaining that from his perspective Canelo appeared to edge the early rounds, yet he stressed that it was Crawford who stood out most because of how he seized command of the fight in the later stages.
I thought he did a great job. I thought it was close. I had Canelo ahead in the early going, but I thought Crawford did an amazing job closing that fight down in the last few rounds, where he really started to back the supposed bigger guy up, although for me, they looked about the same size. But that was a brilliant...
Dan Rafael continued his assessment by stressing the historic weight of Terence Crawford achieving that victory, saying it was not a fight handed to him, but one he had long envisioned and worked relentlessly to make happen. He explained that Crawford rarely received opportunities to face naturally bigger opponents because many observers never believed a matchup like that would realistically take place.
He created a lot of history. He dreamt this fight. He willed it to happen. A lot of people, not me, but a lot of people laughed at him, said, forget about it, no chance against a bigger guy like that. To Canelo, because everybody who has ever read me, followed me, listened to me knows I love Canelo. I think he's one of the greats of all time. I think you can make a really good argument that he's the greatest Mexican of all time, even more than Chavez. That said, he is in decline. He's been in decline for the last few years. He hasn't been what we've seen him at his best since he beat Caleb Plant. You know, that Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Sanders time frame. And, you know, even though he's winning fights, you know, the knockouts haven't happened. He's gotten tired in the later part of the fights, and it's just common. It's the oldest saying in boxing: "Father Time is undefeated."
Sean Zittel then broke down the technical side of how Terence Crawford performed against Canelo Alvarez, saying Crawford handled the power comfortably and showed a level of durability at that weight that many did not expect. He explained that once Crawford began the 3rd and 4th rounds working behind his jab, Canelo started losing his timing, and that shift allowed Crawford to steadily take control of the fight.
Back in 2017, I always acknowledged him as the best counterpuncher in the game, one of the great counterpunchers, but I didn't see him as Sugar Ray Leonard, Floyd Mayweather, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson. I didn't see him as that. I saw him as the tier of greats right below that. Oscar, Shane, Mike McCallum, guys like that. And it turns out, no, he's with the best.
Going into the matchup, many expected Canelo Alvarez to use his natural size, experience, and punching strength to control the action, since he had long proven himself at super middleweight and understood how to handle high-pressure championship moments. After his loss to Terence Crawford, he later addressed fans on Instagram, choosing not to complain, but instead accepting the result respectfully while reflecting on his career, saying he felt proud of what he had achieved, the sacrifices he and his team had made, and the support he continued to receive from loved ones and fans who never abandoned him. He gave special thanks to his wife, Fernanda Gomez, for standing beside him through difficult moments, writing that although every fighter wants victory, he accepted defeat with humility and learning, and that he already felt like a winner because of his family and supporters, before ending with a message of gratitude and pride. Meanwhile, Crawford created his own headline after the historic bout when, during a press conference, he reacted boldly toward a reporter who had previously criticized him, making a gesture and mocking him in front of cameras, which was not simple showmanship, but a direct challenge to the narrative that had followed him for years.
Became a 3-time undisputed champion, the first ever in the 2, 3, or 4 belt era, and you became the second undisputed champion in 3 weight classes when there was only one champion back in 1938 with Henry Armstrong. That's a lot of stuff.
You hear that? You hear that?
In earlier years, figures within boxing media circles often labeled Terence Crawford as dull, lacking drawing power, or facing weak opposition. And he brought those past criticisms to the surface during that press conference, because now he stands on the sport's biggest platform and has not only proven himself, but also answered those doubters directly.
All of it. It all goes hand in hand.
Can you describe what it all means to you to have, you just made like a whole resume of stuff tonight.
It means a lot to me because, you know, anybody can be a nobody, like I said, you know, and that's all they say I've been fighting is nobodies. So what can they say now?
With Canelo Alvarez entering the bout as undisputed champion, preparing for another defense, everything was at stake, not just the titles, but the identity he had built, because a defeat would strip him of both his belts and the status that defined his legacy. That is exactly what happened when Terence Crawford won by unanimous decision to claim the undisputed super middleweight crown, leaving Canelo without the championships he once held in that division, and ending his reign, at least for now, in the historical record. Soon after the result, Jai Opetaia shared his reaction, expressing clear respect and saying he had scored the fight for Crawford and felt the verdict was decisive.
I had him in front. I thought it was convincingly enough. You know, I thought he won, so...
He then reflected on the growing legacy of Terence Crawford, saying that even though the achievement was recent, the Nebraska fighter's name now deserves recognition among the all-time greats in boxing. Jai Opetaia added that Crawford is respected across the boxing world and that his name has secured a lasting place in the sport's history.
Too much ammunition, bro. Too smart. Like, what a technician.
Are you shocked or not?
Not at all. Not at all. All right, that's how I picture the fight going. So I'll picture the fight going that way. Yeah, impressive. You know what I mean? Coming up from all those weight divisions. Hit and don't get hit. That's the aim of the game. So everyone puts him differently in their list, but he's in everyone's list. You know what I mean? He's deserved his respect. He's one of the greats. And that Crawford name, that last name, that's written down in history. So, good on him, bro.
Still, Canelo Alvarez proved difficult to overcome, without power playing a major role, since early exchanges showed that when he landed clean shots, especially to the body or at close range, they had an effect on Terence Crawford. Former heavyweight champion Lennox Lewis shared his honest thoughts on the bout, praising it overall, but admitting he expected more activity and urgency from Alvarez throughout, and he also pointed out that historically Canelo has struggled against slick, mobile opponents in the mold of Crawford.
Great fight. I was hoping that there was more action coming from Canelo. You know, I'm used to Canelo fighting that way all the time. You know, he tried his best. You know, he always has trouble against movers. I was really expecting them to be more punches, more movement by Canelo. Yeah, I mean, it was a situation where Terence Crawford's a tactician, and he throws combinations and he moves, and then, if you try and exchange with him, he's gone already. So you gotta be fast, you gotta punch him when he's punching you.
Lennox Lewis also commented after Canelo Alvarez lost to Terence Crawford, explaining that he has watched Canelo many times and felt this showing reflected his usual approach, but that style was not enough against Crawford. He said Canelo struggled to impose himself because Crawford's speed reactions and defense made it extremely hard for him to land clean punches or take command of the fight.
Canelo boxed about many times, and I thought that this time he just boxed like he always boxes. And then I felt he couldn't really do nothing against Terence Crawford because Terence Crawford was too quick, too elusive. Anybody would find trouble with him, but Canelo couldn't find him. For Canelo to win a round, I say he won about 3 rounds in that fight. I was actually amazed at the way how Terence Crawford moved and never got hit. and threw combinations because that's what you're supposed to do, throw combinations. So he threw combinations. He wasn't trying to knock out Canelo, but he definitely was throwing a lot of punches, a lot of combinations.
For many watching, it was clear that Terence Crawford won not through raw power, but through speed, precise timing, and sharp ring intelligence, as he repeatedly made Canelo Alvarez forced him into uncomfortable positions and kept control of the pace. Canelo did fire heavy shots, yet most came only when Crawford allowed the distance, and he carefully limited those moments while remaining physically comfortable at the weight. Keith Thurman later praised the performance, calling it a true boxing clinic, and saying the result was more than a win, it was a display of elite fundamentals, timing, and composure at the highest level.
What's up, people? It's the morning after the big fight. Crawford Canelo. Shout outs to Crawford. You did it, boy. You did it. For those who still aren't quite sure what they witnessed last night, I'm going to let you know that you witnessed what is called a notorious boxing clinic. This is everything done right.
Keith Thurman also praised Terence Crawford for neutralizing both the power and tempo of Canelo Alvarez, while controlling range from the opening round through the finish, something many people never expected to see happen at super middleweight.
This was a notorious hit and don't get hit. That's boxing 101, people. It's actually the definition of boxing. For those who don't know the definition of boxing, it's to hit and not get hit. It's almost like a game of tag, to simplify it for you folks. All right? And yes, Crawford was tagging him. Not just with the jab, moving, but he was able to do another key factor, which is